You know, we've all seen the devastation from the wildfires, not only burning here in Canada, but also in Maui. Many are attributing the wildfires to climate change, but others say, wait, hold on, not so fast. There's some arson going on here as well. Man-made wildfires. To talk about the wildfires in Maui in more detail is U.S. correspondent and host of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari, who joins us once again from Los Angeles. Lisa, did you find it kind of odd that certain mansions in Maui were untouched during the wildfires while other homes directly around were completely scorched?
Right. It's a long list of odd things that people are questioning here. The fact that, it looks like a power grid, but then it looks like the electrical company didn't, wasn't focused on the threat of fires. Certain properties that were sold and bought in recent times, what you pointed to, but more importantly than anything else, I mean, before we start talking about climate change and the political points that could be made out of this, where's the help? And I think, that's where it's very upsetting. A lot of people in Maui did not want President Biden to visit because they felt like they were abandoned. Look, this is an island of America. It's territory of the United States. And yet they got $700 per household. Whereas if you compare that to Ukraine, not a territory of the United States, although one would think it is, obviously the ratios are very, very off. So there's a lot of questions, and thank you, Hal. You're probably one of the fewer journalists that's not afraid to ask the questions. I mean, we might not have answers, but it is important to note some of these discrepancies and some of the things that really don't add up, and want answers from the government, from Maui, from the United States, from the White House.
Hopefully some of those questions will be answered with some investigations here. Lisa, there's a migrant crisis in the United States, and it's not just those from Mexico and Central America who are trying to cross the border, but thousands of West African migrants are now coming into your country illegally. How is this possible?
Yeah, we've talked about this before, Hal, and we've talked about how Afghans are using the route and Syrians are using the route, and a lot of Chinese are using the route because it's a vulnerable, porous border, and they want to get in. So why not take that opportunity to do so? Now, the Foreign Desk is reporting on a route that is new, and it is being advertised to those in Mauritania and West Africa that they can go through Turkey and come down a few of these Latin American countries, end up in Nicaragua, that is very much open to not asking any questions and giving people visas and then sending them up to the United States that way. I know this affects all of you in Canada as well, because as they trickle into the United States, they're also going more north and finding their way to Canada as well. So this is obviously a domino effect that we know we want to keep our eyes on. But the fact that throughout all these stories, one very common theme is the use of social media to exploit this issue, meaning they're selling these services. They're selling the route. They're selling coyotes and services to get them through, whether it's from Africa to Turkey or Turkey to Latin America, Latin America to Mexico, Mexico to the United States. They're exploiting the issue. They're making money off the issue, and they're on social media. So when we have all of this disinformation campaign and, oh no, you said the word COVID, you said the word vaccine, you said the word climate change, and now we have to have a fact checker on you. Why don't they crack down on some of these? I remember doing the stories in 2014 on how, ISIS was using Facebook and ISIS was using WhatsApp to sell the confiscated weapons that they were getting from the CIA and from the United States, and yet no one was taking these pages down. This is really the responsibility of a lot of these social media pages that I believe in free speech, but if they're using it to do these illegal activities, there should be much more surveillance of that.
Lisa, border agents were recently shot at from Mexico while apprehending a group of migrants in Texas. Was anyone killed or injured?
These guys can't win, right? Look, this is becoming more and more of a trend, and this is why Border Patrol is having a very hard time recruiting agents. It's having a very hard time recruiting officers. And look, it's a very thankless job on both sides, right? Imagine you're trying to do your job and the White House is telling you one thing and you're seeing and experiencing, witnessing something very, very different. And now you're being shot out from the other side as well. So thank God there hasn't been any any fatalities yet, but when I say yet, that means, it's a precarious situation, obviously, when they have guns, when we're dealing with cartels, when we're dealing with terrorists coming through, and they have this job that is a monstrosity of a responsibility to stop the thousands and thousands of migrants that are getting through every single week, and trying to stop them.
It appears as though the Biden administration is quietly getting rid of the Trump border wall. And Lisa, the materials are going to be auctioned off? Where's the money going?
Yeah, it's an interesting story, right? How we know that the Biden administration, I mean, Biden as a candidate was very much against this wall, and he wasn't shy about saying it, but and we knew that they weren't going to go forward with the plans for the wall, although certain states on the border have taken it into their own hands to create some sort of security borders for themselves, and are getting into it with the White House, like Texas and their buoys in the water, for example, if you've been following that story. But now we are hearing that they're not only not going forward with the plan, but they are either disposing of or auctioning off and making a profit off of the supplies that were there and were in queue or waiting for the wall to be built. We're going to regret this. This is really one of the many things I can point to in terms of flip-flop foreign policy and national security, whereas one administration has one view and another has another. I mean, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have two opinions on how to, or whether or not to keep the border safe. You wouldn't have two opinions on terrorism. You wouldn't have two opinions on, our relationship with Israel. You wouldn't have two opinions on, how to keep terrorists out from coming inside the United States. But now we do. And this is very, very damaging to our own national security here at home. It's dangerous to our assets abroad, and we're going to have to pay for it, And look, they don't want the wall. That's one thing, but it's very, very bad optics to show our enemies, to show people who want to get into this country that we're actually auctioning off. How symbolic is that? Not only do we not want your policies, but we're now getting rid of your trash and we're making a profit off of it. So the enemy is from within. We hate Donald Trump more than we hate our enemies. It's pretty dangerous.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, or ICE, have been arresting a number of foreign nationals in states thousands of miles from the border. Lisa, these people are wanted for violent crimes, including murder and human trafficking. Many of the suspects are from Bosnia and Guatemala.
Right. They are not from states that are exactly bordering the United States. They're coming from elsewhere. But a few things to point at here. They're going deep inside the United States. So they were not just catching them in border states or border cities or sanctuary cities for that matter, but they were catching them deep inside the United States where they're making their way. The second thing to worry about here is that often they don't come under the radar until they're coming under the radar for very bad things, right? So these are criminals. Often they are repeat criminals, and they're committing those crimes here in the United States, and then they come under the radar. And when they get arrested or when they're questioned, you find out that they're actually migrants from these countries that you mentioned. It's a trend. It's, here in Los Angeles, for example, we have a huge crime spree going on, robbing homes, but we know that they're coming from certain countries. They're training each other and they're sending them over, and then they fly out. So there's really no footprints or anything like that. But the point being that this can become more and more of a problem when it becomes more of a trend, and they realize that the border is not getting fortified anytime soon, so they can take advantage of that.
Lisa, Moscow has charged a jailed American citizen with espionage. Now, that's upping the pressure on U.S. President Joe Biden, who's been trying to find a way to bring several detained citizens back home from Russia.
Right. And if you've been following the news with Iran, Joe Biden just unfroze $6 billion in assets to Iran's regime to bring home 5 American citizens. What is this message that's being sent out from the White House? Well, if you collect American citizens as pawns, we will pay you. It will benefit you. Horrible messaging to our enemies, and exactly that. Russia knew this. They knew this. They had the handbook first, maybe, and they were taking, American citizens because they know that the White House will then, change its position and want to concede or compromise or do something to get these Americans back home. Right now, there are certain sanctions that are on Russia. Not a lot, because we know that they have more oil sales than ever before, and that's because Joe Biden doesn't want the oil prices, and the gas prices here in America to go up to $12 a gallon. We're already past $6. So because of that, he's let them off the hook a lot for sanctions. Perhaps they want to get more. They want to punish the United States. Exactly that. They grab American citizens in order to send a message to the White House. And I guess it's working. It's very unfortunate.
Your country's teaming up with Australia and Japan in joint Navy drills in the disputed South China Sea, Lisa. Now, many view this as the counter to the recent show of Chinese aggression in the disputed waters. Earlier this month, Chinese Coast Guard ships used water cannons against Philippine vessels in the contested waterway.
Yeah, it's a step forward in the sense that we are building some sort of coalition regionally with the other nations that are closer in proximity to China and are absolutely worried about China's growth and China's appetite for expansion in the region. So I know that this will not be taken easily by China. They will obviously issue a statement, and they have in past months when they have seen some sort of preparation or something that would show that the United States and these allied nations would not sit back. They have made statements in that regard. So things are heating up. I think there's a lot of pressure on the United States to make some sort of moves with regards to China to make sure that it does not invade Taiwan in the next till the end of Biden's presidency. It's a big deal, and I think it would be disastrous for the Democrats if that should happen. So, this is a step in the right direction, and obviously sends some sort of message to China. But let's see how they will react.
Yeah, let's see how that plays out. Lisa, suspected hackers from North Korea have targeted a joint U.S.-South Korea military exercise being held this week, but so far, classified information has not been compromised.
Right. It's interesting because North Korea just failed their own missile test recently. So they're going to stick to what they're good at, which is probably cyber espionage. And in this case, they want to send a message loud and clear to the United States and any regional allies of the United States that they will be, they're still in the game, and they can pull their own weight. And that's frankly what they wanted to do here in this case. The fact that we were able to see this kind of penetration, this kind of breach into very classified information is very worrisome and should really send a message loud and clear. This has happened before in the United States, although obviously number one in the world in pretty much everything in terms of military and cyber capabilities. They have to understand that these rogue nations are absolutely doubling down on their capabilities in that realm, and that we have to definitely keep up and make sure this doesn't happen again, because next time there may be a breach and there will be classified information that is spread.
Now, Lisa, before we let you go, what's the latest with former U.S. President Donald Trump?
Oh, Donald Trump has recently announced that he will not be taking or participating in the first Republican debates, which it's a big deal. It's a big deal because it does pretty much open the arena up for a second place contender. I think it makes a lot of people kind of happy in the sense that if there should be something that goes on with his trials. I mean, there's one case after another that's being brought against him. Unfortunately, it's something that is a stain on our reputation. Love him or hate him, this reflects upon the United States, and it reflects upon our legal system. It reflects upon those who have served the United States. And we shall see. I mean, he's still very, very popular, as you know, and I think the Republicans have a big issue here because he's very popular. But at the same time, this knee-jerk reaction from the rest of the country, wanting to obviously take these cases and bring them to justice and try to silence anybody who has supported him. So it's a tough position to be in, but we shall see. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to the time where we will see who the candidates will be, and then we will be in kind of that election zone, and we'll see what happens with Donald Trump and what his fate will be in all of this.
So in your opinion, who would be running number 2 when it comes to the GOP?
There isn't a clear number two right now, which is very surprising. If you asked me this question 6 months ago, I would have said Ron DeSantis hands down. But his campaign has hit a few bumps in the road. There are a few left in the game, and I should say left in the game, but they are the ones who are kind of rising to power. But because Trump pretty much takes over that the popularity, the headlines, you're not hearing that much about them. But again, the debates will be a good opportunity for him not to steal the show. And the journalists usually like to focus on Donald Trump. It's for ratings. It's for it's TV, right? Because he is good at TV, whether he says things that are provocative or honest or whatever it is, he knows TV. So the journalists, as you remember from the last time, are very much focused on Donald Trump. And I think that this time around, with him not being at the debate, it'll give Americans a great opportunity to see who else is out there and what they have to say.
American correspondent and host of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari, thanks so much for joining us today from Los Angeles.
My pleasure. Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.